Delegating is perhaps one of the biggest challenges that leaders face over their leadership, and it's definitely a challenge that I've faced on many occasions throughout my leadership experiences. And the issue is that we often feel that when we do things ourselves, it gets done faster and better and more effectively and more efficiently, and that delegating would mean losing control and wasting time. But in reality, delegating is not only helpful, but it's really critical to the success of the goals that we aim to accomplish. Um, Even though we don't think this is the case, it's really difficult to balance many projects at the same time and keep up with the high standards of work that we set for ourselves. So while delegating might take a lot of time at the beginning to onboard, etc., over the long term, it saves us a lot of time, and it allows us to focus on more macro and strategic or managerial aspects of the work that we need to accomplish. So despite this rational motivation to delegate, we as leaders often don't because, hey, I mean, we know that we can do everything at the highest level all the time and still live to tell the tale. But this belief is flat out wrong and is truly a mindset that is not synonymous with leadership in the least. The great leaders know how and when to delegate. And I think through proper delegation, we'll be able to relieve our burdens as leaders. And as a result, we'll enjoy leadership so much more. So, in the brief minute or two that I have left, I want to focus on three key tips for delegating and three delegating misnomers that leaders must overcome in order to ensure success. So, let's start with three key tips for delegating. Number one, decide what to delegate. At the beginning, you certainly want to start with the smaller projects, the ones that don't have to be completed a specific way. You're not going to assign your most critical or time-sensitive tasks. And also importantly is leave time for mistakes. The first time you're not going to get it right. You have to budget that necessary time. But most importantly, don't ever delegate busy work or something that you wouldn't want to do yourself, because that's the easiest way to lose your team's respect. Number two, pick the right people. So beyond selecting people, obviously, that are that you're confident they can do the job right and they're self-motivated, you need to focus on the strengths and weaknesses of both yourself as a leader and of your team in order to understand who will work well together and what projects to assign to which people. Tip number three for delegation is communicate clearly and don't micromanage, as tempting as it is. You need to be clear on what you're asking for and put your team in the best position to succeed with all the tools they need in order to succeed. So once the work is communicated clearly, don't constantly check in and breathe over their backs as they're working. Give them space and only check in periodically to see how things are going and see how you can best assist the group or the member in the work that they're doing. In terms of three delegating misnomers, these are three things that I have been guilty of on many occasions and I hear a lot. Number one, I don't want to delegate because it won't be done the way that I would do it. So frankly, this objection is really true, and it's good as well, because when you do delegate, it won't be done the way you would do it, and it's positive because perhaps you'll be surprised with the resources that your team leverages in order to do a job perhaps more efficiently and more effectively than you would have imagined, than you would have done it yourself. But ultimately, the most important is focus on explaining how the job fits in the overall picture and explaining the wider purpose for what you're doing. Because if you do that, then the focus is not on the method used to attain those goals, but the end goal themselves. And it will give your team members a much easier time achieving those end goals. The second thing that I hear on many occasions is, if someone else learns it, I won't be needed anymore. And this is a really real feeling that I know I felt on many occasions. But it's important to keep in mind that while it might make you feel good that you're the only one capable of doing it at this time, it's actually rarely in the best interest of the team and leads to many demises of leadership. For example, if you're a leader who trains your team to do tasks at a high level, then you'll continue to be the leader of the team because the team will meet its benchmarks and succeed. However, if you're a leader that doesn't really train your team to do tasks at a high level, you won't be a leader for long because they won't meet those benchmarks and the team will fall apart and you won't end up being a leader. So it's really critical in order to be a leader to make sure that you're sharing the wealth and not hiding your skills from the rest of the team. The third thing that I hear on many occasions is, I've always done it this way. Why don't you delegate? I've always done it this way. And this is actually one of the worst things that a leader can say, and it's really toxic to any work environment. Mostly because it results in shattered respect from the team. Innovation, entrepreneurship, and ultimately leadership is about coming up with newer and more efficient ways to solve problems and get things done. And just because something was the right fit at a certain period of time doesn't mean that it's still the right fit for this specific scenario. And it's our job as leaders to challenge ourselves to be more open to others' ideas and methods and continue to pursue new ways of doing things even better.